Hello, good
Is it your
afternoon. I don't have a PowerPoint, I just brought paper, kind of old school. So I'll have those after if anybody would like those.
Yeah, Ms. McKinnel, yes, ma'am. If you would, again, say your name, and I know you have a lot to say, but if we could kind of, let's get to the
I will
essence.
go fast.
Get to
I
the
will go
essence of
fast.
it.
Hi, my name
And
is
we
Christine
appreciate your
McKinnel.
presence, yes.
Yes. I am a resident of Cobb County, and I come before you as a proud daughter of a Vietnam veteran, and even more for the Vietnam veteran whose vote did not count this last election. I am begging of you to please look into the technology and who really is in charge of our elections here in Georgia. While I know Dominion has been in the news, not only here but nationally, I would ask you to please look into the poll pads that are being used in Georgia and the no ink software that is on the poll pads. I chose this year to get involved in elections, working in the primary advanced voting. The poll pads are used, it's basically an iPad. It scans the voter IDs when they enter the polling location. It is also Wi-Fi enabled to let you know that. And it also syncs in real time to the local boards of election. It also shows the poll worker the voter's party of choice, and it loads the ballot onto a green card the size of a credit card, and it's widely used across the state of Georgia. During the general election, I was a poll manager in Cobb County. Leading up to that election, I received emails weekly from county election managers. None of these emails mentioned that a software person would be with me in the enclosed area at my polling location. Just to let you know, the Sunday before voting, I receive a very thick binder. It is required that if a poll watcher is to be in the enclosed area, a list of poll watchers will be in this binder. I did not have poll watchers. A nice gentleman by the name of Lucas was in my enclosed area for the entire day. He was a software person, I was told, and he was there to address any issues I had with software. Lucas sat at the end of the poll pad station the entire day. He did use his cell phone. Just to let you know, strict rules. No one is to use a cell phone in the enclosed area except the poll manager and the person at the provisional table. He had a sheet that I was required to sign every hour stating that he was present. Also, when he took a lunch break. I don't remember what was on that sheet. I just signed my name to it stating that he was there. I also didn't know what he was doing on his phone. He sat at a specific chair at the end of the table, and his back was to the wall. The first issue we had on the poll pad, this was not related to absentee ballots, just to let you know, came up when a driver's license was scanned. The voter went through the process on the poll pad. They had walked away and came back. The person working at the poll pad called me over, and it said that this voter has already voted on the poll pad. I went over, the voter said, I didn't vote, it didn't work in the machine. But another voter had already gone to that machine. So we put it in. It clearly stated that we go to the manual. There's a poll pad manual. That was not an option as an error. So the software person who I look to as the expert didn't have an explanation or an answer. He's not permitted to touch anything on the screen. So we went through to cancel that card and reissue it. I made a note that I would have a canceled ballot at that time, and we reissued that voter card to that voter so that he can continue to vote. In the primary, I had worked the poll pad at a different location. I myself processed 300 voters, and that screen never happened. So I never had seen that screen before. The font on it, the way it came up, looked completely different. It was just something I had never seen before. So later in the day, I made a note of that at my desk because I knew every hour it's the manager or assistant manager's responsibility to track how many voters you have checked in at your location. And you do that by looking at the poll pad, counting how many people are at the machines, and looking at the scanner. Sometimes you're off a little bit, and I knew I would be off by one by that canceled ballot. I was at the beginning, right after that voter. This screen, though, came up a few more times. In the interim, I received a call from Janine that stated I should not have canceled that ballot. I should have just reissued the card. I'm new. I said, okay, fine, I will write that out on my report at the end of the night. I made a note that I'll be off one. However, in the middle of the afternoon, when the assistant manager was doing this report, he said, oh, great, our numbers are balanced. And he used to be the manager of that location. I was glad to have someone with so much experience. I didn't understand how our numbers were correct. If we had 4 people had gone through, I still was thinking in my head I should have one off. I didn't understand why I still wasn't one off, but he was excited. We were balanced. I thought, okay, it's my first time. I didn't know the report balanced. All of our numbers balanced. That still was kind of bothering me that our numbers were off. I did not understand who Lucas worked for. Cobb County has a separate tech person that comes with a Cobb County badge on. Lucas didn't wear a Cobb County badge. The Cobb County tech person comes and checks on us and then leaves. So I'm not sure who he worked for exactly. I am going to be a manager again next week, and I asked if he was going to be there. He was just referred to as a software person, so I'm not sure which company he represents. After the election and the news was happening, I called down to Robert Sinners with the Georgia GOP to see if I could help with anything. And I did go down and work at the voter fraud line down in Buckhead. In working there, I received multiple calls from other poll workers, managers, assistant managers throughout the state of Georgia reporting that they also received the same screen that I received, which I thought was odd. And one specific poll manager said that he received this screen on over 20 voters. It stuck out to him that he received this screen because to him, the voters all were young. They seemed to be first-time voters. They were in their late teens, early 20s. He was in a predominantly Republican area, so to him that stuck out to him that they were all young voters. For me, my voters were also Republican, but were not young, so I didn't make a correlation with the age. So I entered that into the Georgia GOP system and left it at that. I had another woman, to move on from the technology, who called. She and her husband voted in Buckhead during advanced voting. This is about the veteran. She regretted not taking a picture and went back to the Secretary of State site to check that their votes were logged in. She discovered that her vote was logged in and that her husband's was not. This bothered me because my father is a veteran, and her husband's vote did not register on the site. So that bothered me very much. I, again, logged that into the Georgia GOP system. I had 2 callers from Dunwoody who mentioned that they went to their respective polls. They have been voting in Dunwoody their whole lives. They are longtime Dunwoody residents. This is in DeKalb County. They found it odd that their poll workers were not the same poll workers they had always seen their whole lives. They're used to seeing community members. They said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who are like grandparents from the neighborhood, are always at their polls. They showed up and they did not see any of these same people there. They thought they had maybe outsourced the workers at the polls. The other caller said the same thing. They also noticed this one specific caller said there were no cars in the parking lot except one covered with Biden signs, and that a van came and picked up all of the workers from that poll. And they seemed to be young college students working. They were very concerned about this, and they wondered why community people were not working at their polls. I myself worked advanced voting in Cobb County. I also noticed that there were not a lot of community members working. I actually worked on the poll pads, which are different when you work advanced voting, and I get paid more money when I work the poll pads. And I thought that was odd. As a community member and Cobb County resident, I get paid less money as a temp worker would. So
Ms.
I
McKinnell,
was a little upset about
I've got a
that.
couple of deadlines to
Yes.
meet here, but could you kind of summarize
Yes,
it really
that's
quick?
about, I'm at the end. The other caller from Dunwoody, to go back to the QR codes, had an issue that Democrat ballots had one QR code on them and Republican ballots had two QR codes on it, and that they were directed to different scanners. My reason of bringing that up is I had logged in a lot of issues while I was down there for weeks into that system, and including Uakava ballots that also had issues, and overseas people with the watermarks, and people were not followed up on. And this was my first election being involved. I'm licensed by the state of Georgia. I know if I don't follow rules and regulations, I get in trouble. And I don't know who is following up and who is standing up for residents of our great state. So if the Georgia GOP is not following up with people, if the Secretary of State is not following up with people, and our guidelines and rules, and I get that book and I put up signs in our voting locations with these OCGA rules, I don't know who is following them and who is enforcing them. And that's my concern, because if an assistant poll manager tells me he doesn't have time to remove a sign that a Democrat puts out that is a call to the Democrat office for voter fraud that's right outside the door of a voting location because he doesn't have time, and nobody is checking all of these rules we post, I don't understand that. So I just don't know who is protecting the people and who's protecting our votes. So this was my first year being involved in our election process, and I'm just wondering who's protecting us. So
Well,
that's why I'm here, and I have a lot of notes from, I also watched the recount in Cobb County, and I know I don't have a lot of time to share all of that with you, but I did bring it all down for you.
Thank you for coming down and being willing to share what you
Yes.
saw and your concerns. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll
Thank you.